Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Lockdown Series Volume 2, Episode 7. Not a great night for the Gunners. A solid away point for the Eagles. We may even dodged a bullet. It's back to the old Arsenal. And here is the Highbury squad live with you again. Okay, Gunners, welcome to the show. Joining me once again are our regulars, the squad. PG, welcome back.
Yes, good evening on the most not exciting match of the evening, was it?
No, it really wasn't. And Super Kevin Campbell.
Yeah, that was, listen, it's an interesting game, and I can't wait to get into it because Kev says yesterday, come to the fore today.
Yep, exactly. It has. And also joining the squad, you guys may have heard this esteemed fellow on our show before. I've been talking football with him for a number of years now. He's been ingrained in the Palace universe since he was probably given birth to. He is actor, writer, producer. You've seen a lot of his films. And now, apparently, excuse me, guys, I don't know if we need a curtsy or bow, but apparently he's a lord. Welcome to the show, Mr. Lord Jim Piddock.
Woo! We're honoured.
Pleasure to be here.
Good to have you, Jim. Good to have you.
Thank you. I was very happy with that point.
I'm sure you were.
I bet you were. Before we get into why you've become a lord, which I can't wait to hear about at the end of the show, let's get stuck into the game, Jim.
It's a long story. Let's talk football.
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. Can't wait to hear it. Welcome to everybody in chat who's joining us from all corners of the earth. Nice welcomes from the chat row for Jim. Show your love for Jim. He's a really good opposing fan that we've spoken to many times. Jim, a really good point for you. Stifled our game, suffocated us. The 2 banks of 4, especially in the first half, were super effective. A typical Roy Hodgson display.
Absolutely, yeah. It was really Roy's organisation at its best. That doesn't always work for us. If we concede a goal early, playing like that, we usually get clobbered. And we find it hard to claw our way back. But it was good for us today. I thought we restricted, I think that's only the 3rd clean sheet this season, and we restricted you guys to very little. I mean, Guaita had almost nothing to do, really. I mean, nothing really troubled him. And I think we had probably the 2 or 3 best chances of the game.
Super Kev, I want to come to you next, and then Amanda, in terms of kind of I really don't like, and Jim can maybe vouch for this too when it comes to someone like Zaha. I really don't like it when we start blaming not penetrating or doing well in a game, attacking in a game, having opportunities in a game when we lose one player. This is such a typical systemic issue with some Arsenal fans. You know, blaming this game on losing Kieran Tierney. This is a team sport. It's not a one-man sport. Obviously, losing Kieran Tierney was tough, Super Kev, but we have to just be a bit stronger and better than that and have the right type of players who can come in and play. We've all wanted Maitland-Niles. Look, the Lord's busy.
He's busy.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I mean,
turn it off completely. There we go.
It's probably Wilfried Zaha trying to put in a word so we could sign him. So yeah, but KC, you can't blame this on Tierney not playing today.
No, I don't think people blame Tierney.
Not blaming Tierney.
It's fair to say we missed him because we do. We missed that quality down the left-hand side. But, you know, Mikel Arteta, for whatever reason, he wasn't in the squad. Probably rested him or whatever. We don't know if he's got a knock. We just don't know. But you're talking about Arsenal here. We should be performing better, and we just weren't at the races today. Fair play to Crystal Palace. They made life difficult, and that 4-4-2 stifled us quite a bit. We couldn't penetrate them much, and whenever we did, they defended very well. So you've got to give credit where credit's due sometimes, and fair play to Palace. But like I said and Kev said yesterday, our experienced players are not stepping up. They're not. We're relying on the young boys too much, and we shouldn't be relying on them. So, again, we are in the January window, and Mikel Arteta, he's got to get ruthless. He's got to get people in who could do a job.
Yep. If you missed the Kevin Says segment, it's on the YouTube channel from last night. Amanda, a player that you and I have defended, I actually ripped to pieces before the beginning of last season, but we've all kind of been crying out for him to be given a chance. He was really superb after Project Restart, is Maitland-Niles, but he had a bit of a howler today, didn't he, in that left-back position?
It's like he couldn't pass the ball properly to one of our players. But to give him credit, you know, he hasn't had much game time. He's probably a bit rusty, and that's not his great position. His position is midfield. He's not a defender. I don't care what anyone says. He's not a defender. But he was asked to play there tonight, and he didn't play very well. But you know, you got to say it as it is. He should have done better. I'd like to go back to that point about Kieran Tierney. It's not that we're a one-man team. We just missed him, you know. And I was going to say what Kev said. Our senior players are just not stepping up to the plate. You know what? Even Emil Smith-Rowe looked tired tonight. You know, but it's like we can't afford to rest him because who else is going to do it? And I have to tell you, my player of the match was Zaha. I don't think I've ever said that ever. He was everywhere.
2 games in a row. 2 games in a row. Xhaka's potentially been the man of the match, PG, to be honest, and to be fair to him.
Today I really noticed him, and I noticed Ceballos as well. I thought Ceballos played well, but it was just nothing. But to be fair, you know, we're always fair on this show to Jim. If you'd have nicked it, it wouldn't have been. We couldn't have moaned about it because you had more chances than us. You played better than us in a way, and we didn't create much. Although Bellerin seemed to be involved in everything, and he nicked the ball off Lacazette, which I thought Lacazette was just about to score. Yeah. I was so frustrated with him, but there's not much to say.
Jim, we've long talked about this, and Chris Wheatley did a really good interview with Unai Emery on Football London, and you can read that. He talked about how much he wanted to sign Zaha. Zaha's the type of player, he can blow hot and cold, and I'm sure he's frustrating for you Palace fans at some point. We saw Pepe come in the second half, who really, you know, his stats.
She's just bounced out.
I
don't know where she is.
She got
she's just carded herself.
Carry on. I noticed she was struggling with her internet signal, but I just thought it was a glitch. Let's talk about. All right, hold on. She's coming back.
Finish your question.
Oh,
there's gremlin in the Southern California internet.
You've been struggling a little bit tonight. It's been pausing quite a bit. Okay, let's hope we can continue.
There's something going on in the area. But Jim, I was going to say that Zaha is definitely the type of player you want to hold on to, but you probably won't be able to. But then the young fella whose name I asked you to pronounce correctly at the beginning of the show, Eze, seems like a real absolute steal kind of deal. Talk me through those two plays a little bit as you coming into this game playing against the Arsenal.
Yeah, obviously Wilf really means he's so valuable for us, and the problem is he's 28 now, and he's worth 70, 80 million to us, but no one's going to pay that in this market, especially with the pandemic. So it's a tough situation. I mean, I think he's, you know, Wilf's also a homeboy, sort of a homebody. So he probably will, I don't know. I think it's going to be the turning point this summer, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he stayed and finished out his career at Palace because he's so loved. And I think he's really enjoying the influx of players like Ebbs. And I think that if Palace can kind of supplement their kind of attacking options so it takes the onus off him, I think, you know, we could do well. I mean, listen, look at the table. We're kind of right with you in the middle of the pack. So his move to Arsenal, would that have really furthered his career at this point? You could argue that Palace have a shot, you know, in the next couple of years of getting into that sort of top 8, top 6 if they buy wisely and things fall into place. So I don't know. I mean, I think it all depends on if someone's prepared to pay the money, because I know that Steve Parish is not going to let him go on the cheap. He's just worth too much to us. But as far as Eze is concerned, yes, I think that was the steal of the summer. I know we wanted Ollie Watkins and we're interested in Ben Rama, but they're just too expensive. I mean, Watkins went for around 30 million, and we just wouldn't pay that for a forward. And quite rightly, I wish we could have afforded him because I think he's a terrific player. But you know, between Eze and Ben Rama, personally, I think Eze is a It's a better acquisition and almost 10 million less.
Kev, when you see what Roy Hodgson continues to do with Crystal Palace and the age that he is as well, and the fact that Crystal Palace have been able to stay in the Premier League for a few seasons now, and he definitely steadied the ship. There's been some talk recently, some reports over the last few days about his future at the club. He's brought such a stability, and it's these games where he shows his intelligence and prowess and experience as a manager, isn't it, to just completely shut us down. If that was Mourinho, everyone would have said he parked the spaceship, the bus, but it was methodical and quite brilliant, and they ended up getting the point. Do you think Roy Hodgson doesn't get the respect that he deserves these days?
No, I think Roy Hodgson gets the respect. I really do. I just think, with Palace at the moment, he's pretty limited to what he can spend and bring in. And, to get some of those good young players, you're talking about Ollie Watkins. Look what Ollie Watkins is doing at Villa. You add them goals to Crystal Palace with Zaha, etc. Then you say to yourself, Palace could be going somewhere. Then you could put Ben Rama in that team, and then you got goals all across the front. They're the type of team who could really hurt you. But Palace just don't have the financial power at the moment to do that. So I believe Roy Hodgson does a great job. There are times where, they're going to get done by some of the big boys. And obviously they got done by Liverpool 7. But they bounce back. That's what Palace are about. They're not always going to get the right results, but they will be there or thereabouts. Palace tend to do pretty well against us recently. And a lot of it is down to how they're set up, and he sets them up brilliantly.
I thought that, I don't know if this stat's true, and you guys can correct me, but I'm not sure if we've beat Palace in the league since the Wenger era.
That's correct.
Is that correct, Jim? Yeah, which is incredible, really. I mean, London rivals, of course, but that is really quite impressive for Palace, especially the struggles that they've gone through. Amanda, Dusty here says loves the show content, but tonight was evident. And I think, Jim, this is where Palace benefited too. I'll start with you, PG. The difference with Mari and Tierney in the back line, the pace and the direction and the ball movement. ESR and Saka really were not in this game at all tonight, and that's because they weren't being fed the ball, but mostly they weren't being fed the ball at speed, which is what we've been used to over the last 3 games, and we've seen that new energy in the side.
And also, you notice that we went back-to-back passing, side-to-side passing. It started to go back a little bit. It does slow it down. It is slowed down, but also Lacazette was screaming out for the ball as well. We hardly saw him. It's just one of those nights, but we didn't lose. So that is a game 2 months ago we would have lost 1 or 2-0. So I'm trying to look at the positives. It's a clean sheet. We got Partey back. Tierney will be back the next game. I think he just has some tight muscles or something. We didn't lose. That's the only positive I can put on it. Positive spin.
I think also, Jim, I don't know how it is at Palace with regards to, you've got the Bentekes of the world, the Andros Townsends, you've got a couple of young players. Your backline's pretty mature. We're now here we are tonight, relying on Saka and ESR to bring it home again. And Kev always says that's just not realistic to think that they can save us all the time, and these senior players have to step up. Is that something that you're finding at Palace too? Going into this game as a Palace fan, back in the day, you'd be like, oh, that's 3 points lost going into the Arsenal. But now most teams coming to play us think they can get something. Is that the mindset of Palace fans?
Well, I think it's Roy Hodgson's mindset to go anywhere and get points. We've done very well at both Manchesters in the last few years. We're a very good counter-attacking team, and so sometimes playing away helps us. Whether it be at Norwich or whether it be at Man City, and I think that like today was perfect for us, because as long as you don't score early and we can keep that defense solid, it was a perfect game for us, and we had 4 or 5 breakaway chances that we could have had the game wrapped up by half time with those 2 goals. So I think that I don't think anyone thinks that Arsenal's an easy touch, especially the last few weeks, but obviously it's not quite as difficult a place to go as it used to be. I mean, I remember that game not very long ago when we were 4 down in 25 minutes. And you just went, well, this could be absolute embarrassment. By the way, I just for name dropping, I got a message from Billy Connolly saying, hit the bar, hit the post, robbed. Love, Billy.
Ask him if he wants to come on.
So, I know, it's too interesting. I think he likes fishing too much right now. So I think that's, I mean, obviously you guys started off really stutteringly this season and it looked kind of a bit grim. But it is, teams go through this. I mean, Man United, people have written off, just
that's amazing, isn't it? That they're 3 points clear.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, and then you just hang in there. It comes right. Arsenal will be fine. They'll be fine.
Yeah, I don't think that we're going to.
Jim. By the way, we remember the 4-0 in 25 minutes as well. Trust me, we remember.
One of those days.
It's a long way gone, but we remember.
Oh, that was awful. I mean, I really thought that's going to be double figures. I mean, but luckily we held out. I mean, we've actually had a good run against you guys for the last 2 or 3 years. So, and today was kind of an example of that. But yeah, I mean, you've got some great young players. I don't know what the age of your squad, but we've got huge problems at the end of the season. I think there's 10, 11 players out of contract. Average age of the team is 29 and a half. That's that's difficult.
Yeah, you're going to have to bring that age down, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think we're looking at players who are over the age of 25, 26. I mean, not even looking at them.
Jim, how long have you supported Palace for?
50 something, yes. Since 1968.
Are you a South London boy originally?
No, I'm from Kent, Sevenoaks in Kent, which is...
south of London, though.
South of London, yeah.
South of the river.
It was either Millwall, Palace or Charlton. Palace had the best kit.
So you live in America now, obviously. So have you got any Palace fans out there with you?
Yeah, there's quite a few,
wow.
actually. There's quite a few dotted around, yeah. Some in Southern California, all over the place, and Canada, yeah.
I always remember when I went down to Palace, the atmosphere is brilliant. I love all that. I think it's great.
Yeah. Since we got back into the Premier League, it's been fantastic. It's before that, it was a bit of a mausoleum. I have to say, though, today I thought the Emirates was rocking. I mean, those fake crowd noises have really made things better.
He's having a bit of a giggle there, no?
Hey, Jim. By the way, Jim, I used to go to Palace quite a bit back in the day. Because obviously, as a South London boy, that was the only. I couldn't afford to go too much to Arsenal at times because I had games. So Palace were the local team, so that's where I used to go and watch that Palace side with Kenny Sansom and all that. Brilliant.
Oh, the 80s, yeah. Some of those guys, brilliant.
I had a really good night at Palace. It was in the 90s. I think even though I think we lost 2-1 or 3-1, but who was the striker? Was it Jamie Morley? Jamie Morley, yeah. Ended up buying me and my mates at Fox a Ruby Murray after the game, which was the most bizarre thing, but it was fun. It was always a fun game to go to, and Palace was definitely one of those always fun away days as well. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Aubameyang as well and get Jim's opposing fan view on Aubameyang. He's playing on the left again, Super Care. It's not a great performance. Granted, there's really no one feeding the forward line too much, but I actually thought in the first half Bellerin made some good runs. He got some decent crosses in. There were some moments, he had a couple of chances, but once again we're not seeing the Aubameyang that we know. How long is this going to take, and do we keep putting him on or do we start benching him?
Well, if you bench him, who are you going to play? Because let's be honest, Martinelli we have to be very careful with now. We have to wrap him in a bit of cotton wool and make sure he's okay. But the boys ain't performing. So whether you look at him or you look at other players, we just ain't performing. We can't rely on the kids to keep doing it for us, although they have been carrying the team. So the more experienced players are going to have to step up. Look, we know he's our best striker. And there's times where he's dropped to the bench and there's times where he's played. He scored in the last game. So you're going to say he's definitely got to play today. But it isn't the same Aubameyang, is it? No. If we're honest, it isn't the same Aubameyang that we've come to love. So look, there's a lot of internal issues going on. A lot of the experienced players have lost form, unfortunately. So I don't know. I don't know. I'll be brutally honest with you. I don't know. We've tried him on the bench. He scored in the last game, which is fine. We think, right, we can get him going. But it just seems that the team ain't playing well enough right now to get him in a run.
Against a very poor Newcastle team, Amanda, though, wasn't it, when he scored? And that's fine. At least he scored. And the point is getting him scoring again. But when Martinelli is fit now, and if this continues with Oba, and you've got to play one or the other in the system that Arteta wants to play, Amanda, you're going to say that you're going to pick Martinelli. You and I have said that he might be humbled if he's benched a couple times. Maybe he can come on as a super sub and get a goal. Lacazette looked so hungry today. It was like he was salivating. I could see the saliva just dropping down from his chin. And it felt like Aubameyang still isn't playing with that confidence.
Tonight, he actually looked hungrier than I've seen him, if I'm honest, because I've said that I want him to be benched. I have said that. I still stand by that, but I understand what Kev's saying. He did score. I actually thought tonight was going to be his night. Maybe not even put him on the bench, maybe rest him for a week or so and let him come back hungry. He did look hungrier tonight, but he's not scoring goals. Yeah, he scored the other one. I could have scored that on Sunday. Was it Sunday? I don't know what day it is. You have to bear with me. I haven't got a clue what day it is. No, I really don't. I don't even know what month it is. It's ridiculous. But the last goal he just scored, I could have scored. But I thought that was just going to, I thought tonight was our night. I actually thought we were going to win. The problem with Martinelli is I feel like every time we play now, we're all going to be like plutzing on tenterhooks, because we've got to be careful with him, but we've got to play him. So we're just going to have to go for it because we need him. We need his enthusiasm, his pace, his energy, his creativity. We need him. And maybe he can spur on Aubameyang a little bit. And maybe he just needs the rest. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is because I wanted him benched 2 weeks ago, but
it's really interesting, Jim. Have you had a player for Palace where, Zaha's probably the biggest contract you've ever given, right? We've seen obviously the regression of Mesut Ozil since he got his new contract. I think Ozil's problems run deeper and it stems from what happened at the World Cup with Germany. Aubameyang gets this massive contract, and since he's signed that contract, he's really dipped in form. I don't like to correlate the two because I don't want to put pressure on the player just because he's given more money. But is there a comparison at Palace for you? And as an opposing fan, when you look at Aubameyang, teams don't really fear him anymore. They fear maybe a Saka or a Tierney versus maybe fearing Aubameyang like they did last season.
Well, it's hard for me to say because I haven't watched Arsenal every week, but he's still
How dare you?
He's really a good player. He's a very good player. I think one of the things one's not taking into account right now is as you said, you don't know what day or month it is. The games have been coming so thick and fast. There has to be a fatigue factor. And if you're not kind of firing on all four cylinders and scoring goals for fun, I think it's quite hard for a forward to just keep going out there and being at your best. And some of our players, Wilf's a perfect example, they just can't keep that level up every week, especially in this kind of congested period. And you've got a bigger squad, a deeper squad than we have. And Roy doesn't like to make changes. So, I just think a lot of the games I've watched recently, Palace, other games, a lot of players have looked very tired. And if you notice, the kind of number of goals has kind of dropped as well lately in the Premier League. I think it was so intense this last. And then we just had the FA Cup, and then just teams have got Europe. I think it's really, really hard. I think that's. I know they're professionals, and I know, but it's just not feasible to play that many games and maintain that kind of level.
Yeah. And it's weird, actually, Jim, that you say that because Arteta's just come out, and one of his quotes were lacking freshness and quality around the goal. He wanted to see moments today from the players look tired, missed Tierney on the left. Crystal Palace played exactly as he expected. The team had a plan, but we were unable to perform it due to fatigue. We lacked quality. We needed to win the game. He then said, we lacked quality in the final third. I would have liked to see a win and a few goals. So it's all coming down to what you just said about fatigue, freshness. They are coming thick and fast. Every night there seems to be a football match on at the moment, which is not normal for the Premier League, but nothing's normal anymore, is it? So these players have to adapt, and someone like Aubameyang doesn't seem to be adapting, if I'm honest.
No, the team ain't adapting.
Yeah.
The team ain't adapting
Well,
we haven't got enough quality.
No, you say that, Kev, but some are adapting. You've got Saka and Tierney who have been phenomenal. Can't even say the word. Leno's been okay. Gabriel's been okay. So it's not the whole team. It's just there's players.
But it's our experience. What I'm saying is our experienced players are not stepping up.
But, as well, I think Lacazette's come through the fatigue bit and he is going for it. And maybe Aubameyang, I keep praying that the next game he'll come out of this slump he's in, sorry.
I think it's really, for Arsenal, I think both teams had an opportunity to take 3 points here. I think Crystal Palace are going to be the ones walking away thinking they were unlucky not to get the 3 points. And in the end, maybe we're happy with the point. And KC, this thing about fatigue, there's a man that goes to a factory and lifts boxes and he works 14-hour shift and he goes home. And, maybe there's a single mom out there who has 2 jobs and looks after the kids. This whole thing about fatigue when you're a professional sports team and you can rotate a squad, be better prepared. That's the harsh in me. As a former player, am I being too harsh, or do you think you agree and Arteta's making excuses? We just weren't that great. Don't blame fatigue.
Yeah, but the thing what you mentioned about there's people stacking shelves has got no correlation to football. Yeah. Because in football, you're playing against opponents. And your opponent might feel better than you do. But you still have, you understand what I'm saying? So you might go into the game and you feel better than your opponent. And you could overrun him, you could out-battle him, etc. But there's some times where you get on the pitch and it seems lifeless. Arsenal seemed lifeless today. Crystal Palace seemed to be more set up. They had a game plan. They stuck to it. But we just didn't have the energy. If you look in the last third, we didn't seem to have the energy or the smarts to really get beyond Crystal Palace and make a difference. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you just have to hold your hands up, unfortunately.
I'm with Tony here. My wife's a carer doing 12-hour shifts. She's knackered, so it happens to everyone.
Yeah, but you can't, just because someone else is tired doesn't mean someone else shouldn't be tired.
I just think when you're a professional,
I had this conversation the other day. You can't
we used to take the piss out of managers, and when Fergie's Man United would lose a game and he'd blame it on fatigue, and we'd be like, "Oh, come on!" I mean, seriously, fatigue.
Well, you're not allowed to be tired as a footballer.
Exactly. All of a sudden, just because you're not a you're not a nurse or a doctor or a carer.
No, it doesn't matter, Sophie.
Don't get tired,
Sophie, do you know something? I've said it before. You can prepare as much as you like. It's when you cross that white line, things change. Crystal Palace were set up in a 4-4-2, and let me tell you something. If you can play 4-4-2 well, you can cause teams absolute major problems, because you got 2 banks of 4, and it's so difficult to break down if you haven't got the energy to play quickly between them.
Okay,
both halves. I mean, what was interesting that both halves, I thought Arsenal came out with great energy, both first 5 to 10 minutes of each half, and then they just kind of ran out of steam. And partly that, I mean, the fatigue thing I think is real, Sophie. I think that playing 2 games a week, even as an amateur player, playing 2 games a week is really difficult, especially at a certain age. So I think that you just can't, and as you say, shelves don't get fatigued, so you can stack shelves as much as you like. But I think that, when you come up against players like MacArthur and Milivojevic, who, really, I thought were tremendous today, because they just broke everything up. And MacArthur's a player who can't play too many games in a row. And he'll probably, if he plays against Man City on Sunday, he'll probably look tired. It usually happens. But he'd had a bit of a break, and so we benefited from it. And I think if you notice that Holding, when Zaha broke near the end, Holding matched him for pace. Now that's not, that would never happen. Exactly. In a normal situation, when you're playing 1 game a week at the beginning of the season, Zaha's passed him and probably got a shot in. But it favours the defenders, and Tompkins and Kouyaté never really looked troubled. And I think, it's the same for both defences, that it's much easier and I think that both teams lacked kind of a huge amount of creativity because it's difficult to keep doing that.
But my point is, though, Jim, honestly, 3 weeks ago, we would have lost that. So for me, there's a slight improvement and we need to be a bit more. We haven't lost for 5 games now. That's how I'm trying to see it. I'm trying to be a bit positive, but I don't agree with Sophie on this tiredness thing. People get tired just because you're not doing a 12-hour job stacking shelves or in a hospital. You can still be tired. You can still have fatigue, and players are not used to playing like this. And remember something else. We're all in a very strange time at the moment where these players are used to training certain days, playing certain days for years and years, and all of a sudden, bang, and that's gone out the window. They've not had their holidays like none of us have. They've not had their pre-season breaks. It's all over the place. So you're going to get more injuries. You're going to get weird games as well where teams you expect to win don't. I mean, I never, ever, ever would predict Man United would be 3 points clear in January. No one would predict that. City are nowhere to be seen. You got teams struggling. So
what are you talking about?
Oh, are they? I didn't
City
think
are third.
50. Oh, thank God for that. As long as Tottenham don't end up in the top 4, I don't care. But I'm just saying, 8
of our starting 11 tonight didn't start against Newcastle.
But it doesn't.
I think there's another factor as a performer that is not being taken into account is that when you are knackered and you need a lift, you can get the crowd to do it. That helps. And without a crowd, I think that makes another difference. I mean, you say, oh, they should professionals, they should play, and they generally do play to the top of their ability without a crowd. But in these games like this, where they're just coming, you need somebody or something to kind of give you that extra adrenaline. And it's very difficult with an empty stadium.
Sorry, Jim. It's been raining for days here. That pitch must be so heavy as well. I'm not being funny. Crystal Palace weren't outstanding. They weren't Barcelona tonight, but they deserved to win it. Okay, I'm just saying. But we didn't. It wasn't terrible. I've seen far worse Arsenal games this season. I just think, tiredness, lack of energy. Arteta said it. It's fatigue. He does know his own players better than we do. That's why Tierney was rested. He's not injured. He just needed rest. There's certain players that won't need rest, like Saka. He just doesn't need rest, does he? But
Here's what I love is that we actually have. Sorry, PG. Were you?
No,
done?
I finished. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It sounded like you had finished on my end, so I just want to make sure you got your final point in there. There's a lot of people in the chat who kind of agree about the fatigue thing being an excuse, and I think LeBron James.
They will, though, wouldn't they? They will.
Well, I'm not being funny. I mean,
a good excuse or a bad excuse?
A bad excuse. They're not having it, Jim. They're not having it at all. Well, look, we're half hour in here. You're listening to the Highbury Squad. This is the post-game show. Arsenal 0, Crystal Palace 0. We're joined by a very good friend here, Mr. Lord Jim Piddock, a lifelong Crystal Palace fan. You can also see a ton of his movies. If you love the Christopher Guest improv type movies like Best in Show for your consideration, you'll love it. He's also in a great show. Party On was Showtime, right, Jim? And
Party Down.
Yeah. And then you play a vicar in a new Netflix thriller.
Yeah, a Catholic priest in The Haunting of Bly Manor.
The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Is it scary? Because I don't do scary stuff, Jim.
It's scary.
I don't either. The episode I was in wasn't super scary.
All right, I might watch it then.
Not as scary as David Luiz being recalled for Pablo Mari in defence. But let's get back to the game real quick here. We've got another 10 minutes or so with everyone. Super Kev, in summary, what were the biggest concerns? You've mentioned it on the show before about the youngsters and relying on them. We saw that again tonight, that we have a real problem. We're not going to solve it all in one transfer window. The summer's going to be key for the Arsenal. Not getting a goal, a bit, kind of going back to who we were before the 4 wins in a row, if you like. Leno again, I'm really happy for Leno. But it just wasn't good, and it feels like 2 steps backwards after taking 4 wins forward.
Yeah, for me, look, got a point, fair enough. Sometimes you just got to accept that. We didn't really turn up. But you know what's difficult for me? When you do make substitutions, you expect them to try and liven the game up for you. Our substitutions just was par, wasn't it? There was no lively. There was no livelier Pepe come on, and it was an opportunity for Pepe to do something. Pepe couldn't really get going, so it's. I find it quite difficult to look at sometimes because these guys supposed to be coming on and making a difference, and these youngsters, we can't keep relying on them. So Mikel Arteta needs to get players out and get that checkbook going because we need better players with better energy.
What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Jim. Where do you think Crystal Palace finished this season? What are the true expectations of Palace fans this season? Are you guys still in the cup? Are you in any of the cups?
No. We always go out of the cup in the third round. I would say...
Sorry, mate.
It's either the third round or we get to the final and lose the final Man United. I would say, if we end up in the top half of the table, people would be very happy. I think most people think we've probably got the strongest squad we've had in a long while. And we've been relatively injury-free. So, listen, we're what is it, 23 points after 18 games. That's on par to get. It's on course to get 48 points maybe. So I would say anywhere from 9th to 14th is probably realistic. That middle of the pack, though, it's so congested. You just 1 or 2 wins and you end up at 8th, 7th, or 8th, and 1 or 2 losses you end up 15th, 16th. So. We're going to be in the middle of the pack. We're not going to be challenging for Europe, I can tell you that.
It's really quite incredible, isn't it, Casey, when you look at just how close things are. When we started out today, I think the frustrating thing for a lot of Arsenal fans is that, we're only 6 points behind Spurs, super close to Chelsea. This felt like the game where we could pick up those points. We've got Newcastle again. We just beat them in the cup. They're coming off a humiliating defeat against the Sheffield United team who hadn't even won a match. Going back into this game, moving forward from this game, you've got to start Partey, you've got to start Mari or Gabriel, and you need to figure out what you're doing with Aubameyang. You need to also figure out who's going to deputise for Kieran Tierney if he's out, and he's going to be out. Apparently, someone wrote in chat he's having an MRI. Amanda, do we know if this is true? Is that something Arteta said?
Yeah, I've just seen my friend on Twitter write that he had sore muscles, and now he's going for an MRI because he's injured. I don't know.
Is that just precautionary, Casey?
Yeah, sometimes it's just precautionary. Just to make sure something mechanical ain't wrong. Right. Yeah. Sometimes you do that, yeah.
One of the things that's important to us, Jim, that we talk about a lot on this show before we get everyone out here is Rob Holding just signed a new deal. Rob Holding's one of those players where one day some Arsenal fans think he's a Holdinho, and then the next he's kind of really the guy who came from a lesser team. The snobbery sometimes of fans is incredible, but he's done actually really well this season. And what I like about him, he's played well no matter who's been by his side. He's elevated when he plays with a smart player like Mari, but tonight he did pretty decent, could have got a goal himself, missed a header. How important is a British core to Crystal Palace too? Is that something that matters to you? Because to me as an Arsenal fan, it matters to me that we do have some core British players in our squad.
Yeah, especially as Arsenal for a long time didn't have very many. It was Wenger who brought in the kind of all the foreign players, which is fine. I think if fans will get behind anyone, they'll get behind anyone. But it's always nice to have homegrown players, particularly, but I'm not kind of jingoistic about, I wish we were more British or anything like that. I just think football is so international now and so kind of cosmopolitan that I'm happy to support whoever plays for us. And as long as they're giving 100%, it's just more exciting when they're players like Wilford or Tyreek, Mitchell or left back. The players that have come through, there's much more an emotional investment for fans. So I love that, and we're really pouring a lot of money and effort into our academy, and so I think that's something that has to be looked at, and I suppose with Brexit now it's going to be a little harder for EU players to just swan over and stuff. So I don't know how it's going to pan out, but these academies also, with the economy of football right now, I think they're going to be really vital.
Yeah. Can I just get all of your guys' opinion? I don't think there's anything else to discuss from this game, you guys. It's one of those games where it was like a mid-table, midweek clash on a Thursday night, which is really bizarre. We played a London rival, Crystal Palace, a team that have done so well against us. Go look at the stats, you guys. This wasn't a shoo-in for us to win this game, although we all went into it confidently because we were playing better. We escaped with a point, and I think that's the most important thing. But Jim just touched on something here, and I'd like to just get everybody out on this, because Celtic Football Club, who is supposed to be, laden in riches, KC, just shut down their entire furloughed. Is it their entire under 23 or under 18 squad? I think it's their under 18 squad. And you got all these issues financially in football that, potentially could escalate and get worse and worse and worse. There's no fans in stadium. Eventually that's going to become an issue. Arsenal have taken a loan out. I think Tottenham took a loan out. We're seeing like this now brewing in different ways. But the Celtic thing, furloughing an entire academy, just seems bizarre to me for a club like that.
Well, the problem is, if there's no football going on, they've who are they? If you're an under 18 coach and you've got no players in, what are you doing? And you're under 18 scout, or you've got a whole department there that concentrates on the under 18s, for instance, who have got no work. So, and don't forget this is really important. The money up in Scotland is nothing like the money down in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Celtic are a huge club, but the money up there is very, very low. Considering they've won 9 in a row right now. So most of the money obviously spent on the first team, and unfortunately they have to cut their cloth accordingly. Scotland is tough in Scotland, really, really tough.
What, Jim, are you foreseeing being close to Palace? Like, it's always good to talk to people from other clubs. Do you guys foresee that? Has the chairman said anything about that in terms of financial struggles coming? If this continues, I was thinking today when I was reading reports about how COVID is escalating in Japan. I mean, are we even going to get the Olympics in the summer, let alone get fans back into stadiums for football this year? What's your take on this whole thing and what it means for Palace financially as well?
Well, I mean, we're actually in a lucky position because we got all that money for Wan-Bissaka, and that not just balanced the books, it put us in the black rather. So, so I think Palace were quite well positioned to enter this pandemic financially. Obviously, it takes a hit, but for us, I think something like 86% of our income is from television money. So that, is good. But obviously everybody's got to cut their cloth. We're not going to be going out and spending a huge amount of that Wan-Bissaka money in January or next summer. Mm-hmm. And I think it's just going to be different. And people are going to have to look, if they're re-signing, getting contract extensions or re-signing, they may be on less money than they were. I mean, there's just no other way to it. I do think that next season we'll have crowds back and it'll be back to normal. But how long it'll take for clubs to get back into shape again, especially below the Premier League, it could be really scary.
Yeah, it really is very scary. Right, I'm going to get you out on a fun question, you guys. Okay, Kev, if you could sign one player from Crystal Palace,
Zaha. Oh, you asked him first. We'd all say Zaha.
Zaha. Were you going to say? Other than Zaha, is that what you were going to ask? If you could sign one player other than Zaha.
Other than Zaha, who would you sign?
Eze.
What a player. I'm so impressed with him. Is it true that he was in the Arsenal Academy?
Yeah.
Yes.
It is, right?
Yeah, many moons ago. But listen, sometimes it doesn't work out like that. We know how it goes. He's got to be challenged and then he makes it. I watched him at QPR last season. And I thought to myself, this kid's going places. And look, Palace pulled the trigger. Very good player.
The chat has lit up with exactly everyone saying him. Absolutely. Jim, listen, you're very lucky, fortunate here. If you could take any Arsenal player, who would you like?
Is it Saka, your young kid?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that would be my pick immediately. I mean, him on one side, Wilf on the other, or as that would be a dream signing.
What's your take on Mikel Arteta, Jim?
I like him. I think he should be given time. I think that the same way I feel about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he's got to be given time, and I think he'll prove to be a solid Premier League manager. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Jim, can I ask you one question?
Yeah.
What do you think of Arsenal fans? Because you know what, Arsenal fans moan about everything. They moan about Arteta. They moan about Aubameyang. And look, won the FA Cup, and we're still moaning. So what do you think about Gunners?
Well, I think they do have a bit of a reputation for moaning, and especially that was that other podcast where the people come on and just scream invective.
Oh yeah, we know that.
I think you're a little bit spoiled. We see you as a little bit spoiled because we've never had those kind of riches or that kind of success. But my biggest thing is I'm always disappointed at how quiet the Emirates is. Where I made that joke earlier, but it's much noisier now.
The thing is,
I think if you get behind a team, it really lifts them. But I think the fans are more demanding. I mean, listen, we have our small Roy Hodgson out brigade and have been for the 3 years. There's always the whingers and moaners. You just avoid the bulletin boards and keep your whinging to your own friends.
The problem is, Jim, for us older ones, that we were promised a dream when we left Highbury. So there comes the moaning from my age of 40 to 50-year-olds, although I'm 51, that we were at Highbury for many years of our lives and we loved it and didn't want to move.
I have to say, in the days that you were at Highbury, the Spurs fans had much more of a reputation of being the whiny moaners. And I loved Highbury. I thought it was absolutely
everyone does.
It. And I thought that the Arsenal fans were different back then. I think that something happened when the move came to the Emirates, that it became more entitled. And that to me, anyway, that's just an outsider. It looked
no,
like
I understand, and you can't generalise any set of fans, can you? Because everyone's got their fans, that's for sure. Where they've got like dickheads and stuff like that. But my point is that my family, we're at Highbury. We're still at the Emirates. We haven't changed, but but the problem is. In the early 80s, Jim, we were terrible. We had nothing. And then all of a sudden we were given mid-80s. We started with George Graham. Then we started winning. Then we won at Anfield. And it all started to build. Wenger comes in. He brings us the double, the Invincibles. And then all of a sudden, we're paying top money. And the last 10 years of Wenger's life. And I know to anyone outside, because we won 4 FA Cups, what it looks like. But it's not that we expected more. We were told we were going to get more. And then the last, 7 or 8 years has been... Woeful. But it is hard because I totally understand. I've got friends in other clubs that haven't won a thing for years and years. And they look at me and go, you should be thankful. And I am. I love the FA Cup. I'm very thankful. And I'm thankful I was around for the double and Anfield and the Invincibles and Euro. I get all that. But the younger generation, and also remember, Jim, we didn't have social media. We didn't even have mobile phones. We used to just go home and moan in the car.
In the pub and the car, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. All football fans moan. I'm sorry. They all do. If you have I'm sure Tottenham fans, my Tottenham friends were moaning last night about Fulham, and Mourinho and stuff like that. But we've got this reputation now of entitlement. And I just feel that it's really hard to label because honestly, Jim, every club's got them. I've got a really good friend who's a Crystal Palace fan who knows quite a few people at Palace as well. And she often takes me when we go and they moan, and it's just, that's football, isn't it? Kev's different because Kev's an ex-player, comes from a very different angle to me and Sophie. Me and Sophie have been saying for weeks, Aubameyang should be on the bench. And Kev says, no, you've got to play him. He's our best striker. But he's not our best striker at the moment. So we argue in a different way. But I understand, and I do appreciate what we had, but we also pay so much money, and none of us want the Kroenkes there either. And I think the Emirates, it's not the same, Jim. Where I sit, it's not. I miss Highbury terribly. Yeah. And as you said, everyone I speak to who is non-Arsenal loved Highbury. They loved it.
Absolutely.
But
we left our soul there. We left our soul. We left our soul at Highbury, the heart and soul.
Yeah, it often happens. West Ham, same thing.
Yeah.
Spurs were lucky because they just literally, it was so close, and it's such a spectacular stadium. I think it's not quite the same at Tottenham, but for a lot of teams, when you go into those bigger stadiums, it's difficult.
It's a bit too champagne-y at the Emirates. I mean, maybe they should have changed the name. They should have gone American and changed the name of the team. And
they're not interested in us peasants in the seats.
No.
They're all interested in the Diamond Club and the club level and the prawn sandwiches. And it's not the same. I've been in the Diamond Club. It's like a hotel up there. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's lovely.
It is beautiful. Yeah, but I don't want to watch football up there. I was just there for an event when I met Wenger. But it's not. It was so weird being up there thinking, am I in a football grounds or a 5-star hotel? So anyway, and as Kevin said, Highbury was special.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. It was a special place. But we should have been named from Arsenal FC to Arsenal Emirates because it's not the same. I think once people, it's very difficult. It's like. It's like when you're going out with someone and you're dating for a long time and they start changing and you try to change them, but they're actually a different person and it may not ever work out. And Arsenal are just a different team now. It's a different DNA, different culture. You can't even equate it to the Vieira years, the Adams years.
Well, I want the sister. I want that sister called Ivory. I don't want the bird called the Emirates. I want to go back to the sister called Ivory, if you don't mind.
I'll get her your number.
You want to be closer to me, don't you?
I'll take that all day long, PG.
Oh, good stuff, you guys. Top notch. Now, listen, we can't leave without finding out how Jim became a Lord. Listen, we've never had a Lord on the show, and I've known you for a while now. Tell us.
Way too boring and silly, and I'll explain to you one day. But listen, I'm not like windbags like Alan Sugar. I still want to be Jim, mate, or douchebag, whatever you fancy.
Okay, so we'll call you douchebag, Lord
Piddock.
Jim
douchebag.
I love it. I love it.
All the best
what you got
for
coming
the rest
up
of the season as well, Jim.
Exactly.
You too.
What you got coming up, Jim? What can we watch you on? Tell us what you're doing.
Acting wise, obviously, there's been nothing going on for about a year.
No.
So I there's a couple of guest things I turned down here because I just didn't want to risk health going in and all the procedures of this and that and testing every day. So I literally just said not interested until we're through this. But I've been very busy writing. I'm writing a series for ABC, a sitcom. So
nice.
I've been working on that with my writing partner and great friend Don Lake. So we've been working on that for the last 4 or 5 months.
Brilliant.
Nice. Very cool. Excellent. Excellent. All right, cool. And you can find the what's that scary, the Netflix show, the
Haunting of Bly Manor.
I'm gonna have to watch it now. If it's scary, Jim, I'm coming after you. I tell you.
Episode 2.
Jump at everything.
I dominate episode 2, and I'm a nice priest. I'm not a gropey priest.
Okay, you're not like The Exorcist, right? Gropey. Oh God.
Anyway, moving on.
Good job. All right. Well, listen, we always love it when you join us, and thank you so much. Well done to Palace tonight. Actually, Palace is a team that I just don't think Arsenal fans hate on. It's
South London.
South London.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's the Ian Wright connection, isn't it, really? It's the Ian Wright connection.
We have little animosity to you guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now we've got the Rebecca Lowe connection too, because she's a good friend of the show. And I know that we love Rebecca.
She's wonderful.
She is. All right, you guys. Speak now, forever hold your peace. KC, PG, do you have anything else you'd like to add to the proceedings?
Yeah, don't be too down. Yeah, there we go.
Don't panic.
KC alight in June.
Yeah, don't panic.
It's okay. We haven't let a goal in.
Yeah, we've got a winnable game coming up again. So that's the one we need to win next. So this one's gone.
I just feel that we need to look a little bit positive. We haven't lost 5 on the trot. Let's carry on. We're not going to win every game. We're not. No one is. No one's going to win every game. So let's just continue on our path. Let's get the players back that we want in the side. It was good to see Partey for 20 minutes. It was, he's coming back. That's exciting. And I'm just trying to be a bit more positive.
Sophie, right. Can I ask Jim one more question?
Listen, he's right here as long as yes.
Jim, were you at the semi-final against Liverpool?
I was not. I was in LA. I was working in LA. It was actually on my birthday.
Really?
The one we won 4-3, Alan Partey.
Yeah.
No, I was, and it was an early game, so I was actually asleep. It was like at 4 a.m. and I woke up and I had a hysterical message from a fellow Palace fan. He could barely speak. He was screaming, going, we won, we won, we won.
No, you can swear, Lord.
Yeah, you
Lord,
can swear on here. Yeah.
We fucking won. We fucking won. We fucking won. And that was the season we lost 9-0 to them earlier.
That's right. That's right.
So it was incredible, incredible. Now, my last word is I just want to say what a real pleasure and honor it is to be with you beautiful people. And I will remember this hour a lot more than I probably will remember the game, as I think we all will.
No way.
Us too. Us
You
too.
take care,
Awesome.
Jim. You take care, Jim.
Thanks,
Real
Jim.
honor.
Thanks for
Thanks.
Take
joining
care,
us.
Jim.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Take
Bye.
care. That is the
Oh,
great
What a
Jim.
lovely
I
guy.
love him.
What
I
a
love
lovely
him.
guy.
He's always
Lovely
brilliant
guy.
on our show, isn't he?
Oh, I love him. He's such a good guy. And you guys, seriously, if you haven't seen Best in Show for your consideration, really superb movies, and Party Down's really fun. And The Scary Thing on Netflix is scary. I tried to get through the first episode.
Oh.
And I have
He
to say,
lied to
people,
me.
you got to watch Carl. You got to watch it with Carl, so he's holding your hand. Tony likes all those
See, when I
horror
watch
things, I
anything,
don't.
we'll jump at everything.
Yeah. It's not going to be as scary as watching Arsenal in a cup final, though. That's for sure.
Different
Right.
sort of scariness.
All right, then, kids. Listen, we didn't lose, but we didn't win. It's a bit disappointing, really, to be honest. I'm a bit disappointed, but I'm going to move on. I'm going to go have a baguette or something, a nice sandwich.
I'm going to bed. It's 11 o'clock here.
Basketball. It's basketball tonight. It's basketball.
It's basketball
you'll be
tonight. I've
up.
got the playoffs.
Do you know
Oh, yeah.
what? Kev, do you ever sleep more than like 3 or 4 hours?
No.
No.
No. I don't.
He's awake talking to you when I go to sleep, and he's awake when I wake up. It's bizarre. It's mental.
Noon thinks
all
Newman
good.
always comes in with a classic at the end. Eugene overworked. She's hardly been here,
Oh.
Newman. Keep your trap shut, for crying out loud.
I
true.
love Newman.
And listen, no matter where in the world you are, we had a strong crowd in live chat tonight. We really appreciate you joining
Thank you
us
very much. Yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
for taking time out of your day to spend with us. It's always greatly appreciated here at the Hybrid Squad. We're going to be back tomorrow for a live show at 8 o'clock. We're probably going to do the fan forum. Maybe it'll be spontaneous, a little bit like Jim's movies. Who knows? But all we know is we're going to be back for Lockdown Series episode 8. Until then, tell them.
I'll tell him. Always Arsenal.